Hello, I am Brittany Hall, Project Coordinator for UConn Solid Ground, a program of UConn Extension, and I'm here with Jacqueline Kowalski at Urbanscape's Native Plant Nursery, and today we are talking about urban farming and farming in small spaces. So Jacqueline, can you start by telling me about yourself and what your role at UConn Extension is?
Sure, Brittany, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, I am the Urban Ag Extension Educator for University of Connecticut, meaning that I work with individuals, community members, social enterprises, schools, to help develop systems to be able to produce agricultural products in the city.
If folks want to find you, to reach out to you, is there a way that they can do that?
They can reach me at, I am based in the Fairfield County Extension Center. They can call me there, or they can reach me by my email, which is jacqueline.kowalski@uconn.edu.
And I'm just going to give a quick pitch that Jacqueline also does one-on-one consultations through UConn Extension, where she can come out and work with you. Can you talk about some of the DIY projects you've seen on some of the sites you've been to and how that has helped farmers?
Some of the things that I generally see are going up. So vertical gardening, using trellises for vining crops and other crops that can be can produce more or have less disease or pest issues if they're produced upwards. For example, cucumbers, squashes, beans, things of that nature. And one of the reasons that is important is oftentimes we'll have structures like fences as part of our sites, so you can easily use fences. We are able to find things that you could use as trellising material, such as branches or sticks or other things that are going to be straight and sturdy that you can repurpose, recycle for that reason. I see a lot of alternative type raised beds. So you have your traditional wooden beds. You can do it with concrete blocks. I've seen it with just not even using a side on the bed, just mounds. Additionally, things such as food grade. Food grade is important. 5-gallon buckets or 3-gallon buckets can be used in spaces where you may not traditionally grow things. For example, a parking lot, concrete pads. So you can put holes in the bottom to make sure that there's drainage, or holes in the bottom on the sides, and use those to grow tomatoes, peppers, basically any sort of plant, as long as there's appropriate soil, light, and drainage.
So what are some of the struggles and the different sort of challenges that growing in urban space farmers can face?
There's soil quality issues. It may be contamination, and it also just may be poor quality soil. Oftentimes in an urban space, the soil had been stripped off at some point, and what was put back was going to be a fill type material, which is very low quality, easily compacted, low in nutrients. So soil quality is one of the largest challenges, and drainage, because if it's compacted, the soil can't drain like a normal agricultural soil would. Another challenge is, you can see here on our site here, is light. So if you're in an urban space, sometimes you'll have houses on either side, you'll have trees, and there's nothing you can do about that. Those are stationary objects that are going to be there. So you have to figure out what is most compatible with your site. And if you can't indeed grow anything if you don't have enough light. Water can be a problem too, because if there wasn't some sort of existing water system there, you have to figure out how to get water to your farm, because during the summer you don't want to be hauling gallons and gallons of water. You might not have the ability to haul gallons and gallons of water, so you have to think about that before you start.
So what are some of the ways that folks who are looking at a farming site can start talking with their neighbors and open up that line of communication when they find a site where they'd like to start farming or gardening?
I think that's one of the first steps that a person who wants to start urban farming in a particular area must make the time for, and must make the effort for, because it's your neighbors who are going to support you.
And so also working in a city, do you have to reach out to cities generally and talk to them about what you're thinking? Or
so if you are considering farming in a city, the first thing I would do is reach out to an organization that's the I guess social enterprise in that city. So they're going to have an idea of what the zoning rules are, what the general climate is, if it's positive toward urban agriculture or not. Because again, you don't want to get into a situation where you've invested your time and your money, and you come to find out, well, that's not an approved use, or that particular place can't be used for urban agriculture, because then it hurts you, it hurts your time, it can cause challenges. So that's what I would do. I would also take a look at the city policies. You can do that through looking up the city codes, looking up urban agriculture, gardening, to see what is written into the code. It's really important that you do a little bit of homework before you engage in urban agriculture.
Before breaking ground, you mentioned reaching out to the city, finding out the different ordinances, talking to your neighbors. What about on the site itself?
So there's a couple parts of it. There is the physical structure of the site, or the physical landscape, if you will, but there's also your motivations. So what you want to consider is, what are your goals? Why are you engaging in this endeavor in the first place? Because those sorts of things will help you define what you want on your site. You also want to think about what your personal capacity is. How much time do you have to give to this? Because that'll help dictate how big it can be. Most people are part-time farmers, so they're doing it around other obligations and commitments in their lives. So your time's limited. All of our time is limited. And once you have a better feel for your goals and your motivations, that will help you determine where and how you set up your site. Now, some of the things you need to think about, one important that we sometimes forget is, if at all possible, walk the site before you invest in it at different times of the year. You want to look at the site after a big rainfall to see if there's, or if you can't even during a big rain, to see if there's flooding, pooling, drainage issues. You want to see where the light is coming from at different times of the day. You want to see where access is at, in case you need to bring in trucks of compost. Set up in a way that if you need to bring in materials, you can get the materials where it needs to be easily. Water, wherever your water spigot is, if you have a water spigot, if you do decide that you want to bring in water, can you easily get the water to your plants? So those sorts of things. Think about how much capital you have to invest. Think about, are you going to grow from transplants? Are you going to grow from seed? And if you're going to grow from transplants, how are you going to get those transplants? Are you going to raise them yourself, or are you going to buy them in?
What are some of the common mistakes you've seen folks make in their very beginning stages?
Again, the things you want to do when you're just starting your farm: weed management. If you are doing in-ground production and you have a space that has had turf, or has had a lot of perennial weeds and things like that, again, it's much easier to manage those prior to starting your farm than to try and do it around crops that are growing, particularly if you're growing perennial crops like asparagus or horseradish or things like that. I would, again, think about long-term of the way you set your farm rows up, if you're using rows. Again, to make it as less labor intensive on you as possible, and your staff or whoever is helping you. One of the challenges as a beginning farmer is sometimes your capital is very limited. You want to think through, investing in the type of equipment that you may need long term. You know, maybe decide you're going to buy one new piece every year. Talk to other farmers, find out what has worked for them. The more people you talk to, more opinions you get, will help you form your ideas around what's going to work best for you.
So what are some of the unique opportunities, like the really positive things that folks can gain out of farming in an urban space?
Well, I think the unique opportunities are endless. First, you're exposing your community to farming. Most people these days don't have an opportunity to really see how food is grown and to be part of how food is grown. So I think that's one of the strongest opportunities.
Do you have any resources that you would recommend folks, so if they're just starting out, like books or websites, YouTube pages, that you think are really useful for anyone who's wanting to get started in farming in an urban or very small space?
So as an extension educator, I will always recommend extension resources. University of Connecticut has some great resources. The Solid Ground webpage has some great resources. The Urban Ag page. You want to study what other farmers are doing and what's working for them. It doesn't mean that'll work for you, but the more you learn about what other people do, the more you're going to incorporate ideas into your own life. The Connecticut New Farmers Alliance, CT NOFA have some great, the Connecticut Department of Agriculture. You know, a couple good books that are out there. The Market Gardener, which I like because it really is about intensive production in a small space. Farming While Black is a great resource book, even though that's a book that talks about larger spaces. Many of those concepts are more than appropriate for smaller spaces too.
So any last minute thoughts, like things that folks should keep in mind and consider when they are looking to start farming in an urban space or a small space?
So I think anytime you wanna think through farming, it's a lifestyle, and you have to be aware of the challenges and risks, and think about at this time of your life, are you ready for that? And you know, just remember that it's not all the glamorous part of, you know, the social media posts of showing the most beautiful basket of tomatoes. It's all the hard work that goes into producing that. And we encourage folks to think about growing, if not farming, growing for themselves. But again, you know, the opportunities are there, but it's not an easy path.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today and talking about your experiences and your thoughts about urban agriculture. We really appreciate it.